Hi, I'm Chris Hewins. My tasks include acting as a technical expert in developing food safety and suitability standards and in evaluation and verification processes. From time to time, we've heard from verifiers that they've been uncertain about when to engage a technical expert, what the expert does in the verification process, and indeed what qualifies someone to be a technical expert. In this webinar, I'm going to address some of the most frequently asked questions relating to technical experts. So let's start by getting a common understanding of what we're talking about. So what is a technical expert? They're someone who's a suitably experienced and qualified person or organisation responsible for providing robust and current expert opinion and information on the methodologies of new or existing food processing technology or food production or operations. In slightly different words, the term technical expert is used for a person who's a knowledge specialist in a given field or technology and who's available to assist in providing industry-proven and accepted input into the specified technical areas of a business operation. They don't have to have any audit experience or food safety program knowledge. So what qualifies someone to be a technical expert? Well, it's not just about having the right piece of paper. They're selected for their expertise based on their competence, experience and knowledge, and sometimes their recognition within the industry. Typically, they have relevant and appropriate qualifications, such as in food technology, in engineering, as a scientist. They may have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD. They have extensive work experience within the relevant industry sector, preferably 5 or more years on the relevant food processing technology or food manufacturing operations. They have in-depth and comprehensive understanding of the relevant food processing technology. They have an understanding of the regulatory environment, that's the acts, the regulations, notices, an understanding of the Food Standards Code and codes of practice, of export and overseas market access requirements, and appropriate guidance documents. They know about food safety and quality systems. They understand accepted industry practices, processes and standards. And they can apply HACCP, that's hazard analysis, and critical control point. They have acknowledged expertise, that's credentials related to food processing technology or food manufacturing and other such operations. It's important to note that the technical expert status must be able to be justified by the verifier and or their agency. Does a technical expert need to be a recognised person under the Food Act? Well, quite simply, a technical expert can be a recognised person under the Food Act, but they do not necessarily have to be. Does a technical expert have to work for a recognised agency? A technical expert can work in a recognised agency, but they don't have to. They can be an independent service provider. They can work in an organisation within the food manufacturing industry. They may also be drawn from the likes of industry, commercial organisations, consultancies, academic institutions, and government departments. What do you need to consider when deciding if a technical expert is required? Verifiers seek assistance from a technical expert, but they don't have the necessary specific technical knowledge, or such knowledge is not readily available from colleagues or peers within their organisation or group. Once you know the sector the business is in, what processes they undertake, and what products they produce, you need to consider whether you have the right experience and expertise to verify the business, and of course, ensure you are recognised to verify in the sector. Then consider, do you have sufficient knowledge and experience of the sector? Do you fully understand the processes they use? Your level of knowledge of the hazards and control measures associated with the processes and products. Think about it this way. If you don't understand what a process should look like when it's working properly, how would you be able to identify if something has gone wrong? How do you decide what expertise is needed? This will be determined by scope of the food operations of the client. If you struggle to decide exactly what expertise is required, that suggests that your knowledge of the business is insufficient to undertake the verification on your own, so get a technical expert. Ask your manager for assistance in determining what experience, qualifications and knowledge this person must have for this situation. What is the technical expert's role in the verification process? The verifier is responsible for and leads the verification process. The technical expert is, in effect, a consultant or assistant to the verifier. They will observe, seek, and gather information from the client related to the subject matter assigned them. This will include, but is not limited to, determining the knowledge and competency of the client and key personnel in managing the process, technology, or operation. Assessing if the client's procedures for the food operations are adequate. Evaluating if the relevant equipment and manufacturing premises meet the prescribed requirements. Establishing if the critical control points are effective at managing or at least mitigating the hazards and risks to an acceptable level. Researching and confirming the reliability of the client's actual execution of the food process. The technical expert provides the information and their professional opinion to the verifier to use in making the verification decisions. What information do you need to gather from the technical expert? You need to hear their observations, their specific points of evidence of risk, their conclusions, their constructive advice on corrections of deficiencies noted. The technical expert doesn't write the verification report, but must keep their field notes in case of any disputes. You can ask for a written report or a comprehensive risk analysis report. How does a verifier use that information? The information received from the expert is used to inform and guide the topic results and verification outcome and support that outcome decision. So let's give you a rest from my voice for a while. We talked with Susanna, a technical specialist from Assure Quality, about the technical expert's role in the verification process. Let's see what she had to add to the questions we've addressed so far.
Hi, my name is Susanna Roelofs and I work for Assure Quality. I am a verifier and evaluator under the Food Act, as well as a technical expert for verifiers and evaluators. My role as a technical expert is to provide advice and consultation to verifiers, and where this process starts is right at the beginning when a verification is assigned to a verifier. If they felt that they did not have the required knowledge or experience or industry experience as well for a certain sector or process, they could engage the use of a technical expert for the verification. It's at this time that it's really important that a technical expert ensures that they themselves have the required competencies, industry experience and qualifications to assist with the verification. And it's also important that they identify or declare if there's any conflicts of interest with the operator. So if a technical expert has had any involvement in the design, development, or implementation or validation of a food control plan, then they would not be able to assist. Once all of this is confirmed, the operator is then advised that a technical expert will be engaged to undertake the verification. And at the entry meeting, the verifier would introduce the technical expert to the operator. The technical expert would, like myself, would then just define their roles and responsibilities within the verification, that we are there to provide advice and consult with the verifier upon request and instruction, and that we will not affect the audit or the verification outcome or any decision-making process throughout that process. For the verification, it's really important that technical experts prepare for the verification. One of the requirements for Assure Quality under accreditation is that technical experts have current knowledge. So we are required to ensure that we review all the current legislation, guidelines, notices, and codes of practice to make sure that we are up to date with the requirements. On site, then, the technical expert follows the instruction, as I say, of the verifier. We take notes as we go through the verification process, recording any observations that we see. We record notes of the processes that we observe, as well as the any places of the operator's site that we visit, as well as staff interviews and findings. After we take these notes, it's really important that we capture any information that we can then give back to the verifier, because this will assist them in their decision-making process of whether there is an acceptable or non-acceptable outcome. It's also really important on site that technical assessors are mindful of their body language, as this could also influence the verification. So we're silent observers for the most part, and to ensure that we don't influence the verifier or the operator during the process. Once the verification is complete, a technical expert is required to complete a documented outcome of the advice, and that can be in the form of a formal report, or it could be something as simple as an email describing information that we've captured during the process. The verifier then reviews that information, and then they use it with other information that they've gathered against the risk-based measure to make sure that they can make a decision. And that's the end of the technical expert requirements.
So to finish, let's look at a few of the really practical questions that verifiers often ask. Firstly, how do I find an expert? A technical expert may be available in another recognised agency. You can check with your industry group. You can do a Google search, for example, expert on the particular topic you want to seek their expertise. Talk to verifiers that may have had the same or similar processes verified. You could approach the New Zealand Institute of Food Science and Technology for suggestions. You may wish to check with other verification agencies or verifiers or MPI who have used the technical expert in the past, and or request references from other organisations. Always remember to do due diligence to make sure the expert is respected and is giving an accurate representation of their experience and abilities. Who pays? If the technical expert is an independent service provider, the costs will be passed on to the client. The recognised verification agency will issue the invoice, which will include the cost of the technical expert. This cost should be included in the pricing given to the client in the confirmation letter. If the technical expert works with the recognised agency, there will be no additional cost to the verification service. What documentation is required? A written contract between the recognised agency or person and the technical expert will be required. This will include details of the scope of the verification activities, a description of the task the expert will undertake, required deliverables and what they will be required to look at, conflict of interest if applicable, the costs for the service provided, and confidentiality of information required for the verification activities. It's particularly important to ensure the technical expert is not drawn from an entity that could be perceived as being a competitor, given the potential for exposure to intellectual property and information that could be classified as trade secrets. What do they need to know and do about confidentiality? Technical experts need to be advised of the requirements for keeping information confidential, the storage of such material, and use and disclosure of information acquired during a verification. They must sign a confidentiality agreement. How do you introduce them to the business owner? The role of the technical expert must be covered by the verifier during the entry meeting. You should explain to the client that you, the verifier, will lead and conduct the verification, and that the technical expert will focus only on their area of expertise. Explain that the expert will observe and will need to discuss and inquire about processes and operations and critical control points. So to summarize, in this webinar, we've looked at the most frequently asked questions about using technical experts. As a verifier, the most important points to remember when deciding whether or not one is required are: do you have sufficient knowledge and experience of the sector? Do you know and fully understand the processes they use? And your level of knowledge of the hazards and control measures associated with the processes and products.